Florence, Colorado is a lovely town. In the hot months, gorges run for miles across a barren desert, giving way to the majesty of snow-capped peaks in the winter. Farmers markets bloom throughout June and July. However, Florence has a darker side, which is hidden but visible enough to scare anyone in their right senses. America's most notorious prison, the Administrative Maximum Facility, or ADX Supermax, is nearby, but not close enough to cause concern. The federal facility, known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies and an American gulag, houses around 500 convicts. They are the worst of the worst and include 9/11 conspirator Zacarias Moussaoui, Oklahoma City bomber Terry Nichols, and serial killer Joseph Swango, aka Dr. Death, who poisoned 60 of his patients. For more than 20 years, the jail has operated in near-complete secrecy, but a federal lawsuit alleging mistreatment of convicts is, for the first time, throwing light on what happens beyond the prison walls. It reveals alarming information. This is America's harshest prison, a facility that Amnesty International has warned may be violating the U.S. Constitution, claiming that ADX was so cruel that it pushed the boundaries of acceptable punishment to their extreme limit. When inmates arrive at the United States Penitentiary Administrative Maximum Facility in Florence, Colorado, one thing is clear: ADX, the nation's most secure Supermax prison, was built to keep them isolated from the outside world. The worst of the worst from America's extensive prison network is transported to ADX, the Alcatraz of the Rockies, in buses, special vehicles, and even Black Hawk helicopters. Security forces with heavy weapons patrol the vast complex. A dozen formidable gun towers soar above squat brick structures. The snow-capped mountains are partially obscured by razor wire-topped walls. Life in Supermax. Many of the roughly 400 prisoners spend up to 23 hours a day alone in their 7 by 12-foot concrete cells. Small holes in the doors allow meals to pass through. The bed is a concrete slab with a thin mattress and blankets on top. A single window 42 inches high and 4 inches wide lets in some natural light, but prevents convicts from seeing beyond the building. Concrete stools and desks are also used in the cells. Solid walls keep inmates from seeing other cells or coming into direct touch with other inmates. Outside of guards and prison employees, inmates have very limited contact with any living soul. When they are carried outside their cells, they must wear leg irons, handcuffs, and stomach chains and are escorted by guards. Recreation time is permitted in an outdoor cage that is slightly larger than the jail cells, and only the sky is visible from within the cage. Designing the Supermax. In 1980, 2 members of the Aryan Brotherhood, a white supremacist criminal group, attacked and killed 2 prison guards at the Marion, Illinois Federal Prison. A man named Norman Carlson was the director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons at the time. Following the death of the 2 guards, he directed the construction of a prison that would provide greater protection for correction staff and inmates from the most violent offenders. As a result, the prison of all prisons, the Administrative Maximum Facility in Florence, Colorado, was established, ADMAX or ADX. It was established in 1994 to keep inmates who have proven difficult to control, even in maximum security prisons. There are currently 400 residents. The structure is made of reinforced poured concrete, and the cells are 7 feet by 12 feet in size. Each cell features a largely concrete desk, stool, and bed. To prevent inmates from talking with one another, the cells are soundproofed. There is a timed shower to prevent flooding, a toilet that turns off if it becomes clogged, and a wash basin with buttons instead of taps. A little slit of a window allows prisoners to only see the side of a structure, preventing them from calculating their location within the facility. The structure is designed to be virtually impossible to escape from, with 1,400 remotely controlled doors. Outside the compound is ringed by a 12-foot-high fence topped with razor wire, as well as 12 security towers. Armed officers and attack dogs patrol the grounds, aided by motion sensors and cameras. Good luck trying to find your way out of this prison. The prisoner routine. Each convict begins a 3-year period of near-complete isolation upon arrival at ADX Florence. Prisoners are kept alone in their cells for 23 hours a day during that period. 1 hour has been set aside for exercise. Guards remotely open a cell door, allowing the prisoner access to a dog run that leads to a leisure enclosure. This is the empty swimming pool, a concrete pit that allows offenders to stroll in a 30-foot circle, always alone. There is a point system in place that permits prisoners who behave well to gain a few meager benefits, such as having a black and white television in their cell. However, no National Football League games or comedies are available. The only content available is religious or educational. Good behavior can lead to meals in a common dining room, as well as prolonged periods of exercise and relaxation. Meals are supplied 3 times a day through a slit in the cell's steel door. However, it is jail food, so it is far from gourmet. It's been claimed that anyone who comes out of a normal prison stating the meals was wonderful will almost certainly re-offend and be sent back. However, this is unlikely to be the situation at ADX Florence because only a few inmates will finish their terms before dying. The prison's concept is that inmates are left alone with their thoughts, possibly to reflect on the horrible decisions they have made. However, inmates housed in ADX Florence must believe they are dead while still breathing, which can be hazardous to their mental health. What can all that isolation do to you? Many people in ADX Florence struggle with protracted sensory deprivation. The prison psychology is a specialty of Dr. Craig Hamey of the University of California, Santa Cruz. He claims, quote, prisoners become terribly despondent and lethargic, sleeping, lying on their bunks, looking at the ceiling, refusing to go out and exercise. However bad these may sound, they are still considered as some of the less severe consequences of Supermax confinement. Some inmates mutilate their bodies with razors, glass shards, sharpened chicken bones, writing utensils, and whatever else they can get their hands on. Others ingest razor blades, nail clippers, broken glass, and other potentially hazardous materials. Suicides occur despite the fact that convicts are constantly monitored. Guards foil many attempts, but at least 8 prisoners have succeeded in ending their own life in ADX Florence. Some convicts may become enraged about trivial matters and yell or scream for hours on end. There are also hallucinations and detainees having extensive dialogues with voices in their heads. Others protest by smearing feces on the wall of their cells or by going on hunger strikes. This prison would simply drive anyone crazy. According to a law, the Bureau of Prisons cannot transfer mentally ill convicts to a Supermax jail. The 8th Amendment mandates prison staff everywhere to effectively identify and handle mentally ill convicts. ADX Florence appears to consistently breach both of those provisions, which became the subject of a lawsuit in 2012. Some offenders transferred to ADX Florence due to deviant behavior elsewhere in the prison system have already been diagnosed with a mental condition and are receiving medication. However, Florence has a law that specified psychotropic medications could not be given to inmates, so those who are affected are thrown into a hell of mental illness. Other prisoners, as we've seen, suffer mental problems as a result of their confinement. In December 2016, a federal judge agreed to a settlement after 5 years of back and forth. Included in the terms of the settlement were improved screening of prisoners' psychiatric issues before they are placed in ADX, better staff training on how to recognize and respond to symptoms of mental illness, and the appointment of outside professionals to monitor mental health treatment programs at the facility. As a result of the lawsuit, the Bureau of Prisons has already transferred more than 100 convicts with mental health issues to other facilities with treatment programs. Despite the upgrades, ADX Florence remains a terrifying place, but then so are the individuals who live there. Let's take a look at some of them. Dr. Michael Swango, aka Dr. Death. Dr. Michael Swango, like every other medical professional, took an oath to do no harm. But he would violate this pledge dozens of times, as he was convicted of killing 4 people and maybe killing up to 60 others while working as an EMT and a physician. Patients seemed to die at a higher than normal rate around Swango from his initial days as a volunteer ambulance driver during his university years. His employees and other associates also noticed they became dangerously ill after eating food he had access to or had prepared. He was finally barred from all teaching hospitals and medical schools in the United States and fled to Zimbabwe, where patients continue to die inexplicably under his care. He committed numerous forgeries and assaults in order to continue his catastrophic medical profession, but he was eventually charged by both US and Zimbabwean authorities and is currently serving 3 consecutive life terms at the Florence Supermax. Joaquin Guzman, aka El Chapo. Don't be misled by the nickname Shorty. Joaquin Guzman, alias El Chapo, is one of the world's most notorious drug traffickers and murderers. Guzman, who was born in Sinaloa, Mexico in 1957, began his drug-related career by growing marijuana with his father. He started out in the hard drug trade with notorious kingpins Hector Salazar and later Miguel Gallardo, until Gallardo was imprisoned in 1988. Guzman established his own cartel, bringing more cocaine, marijuana, methamphetamine, and heroin into the U.S. than any other drug dealer in history. A rival cartel attempted to assassinate Guzman at an airport in 1993, but instead assassinated the Cardinal Archbishop of Guadalajara and 6 other bystanders. Guzman was then forced to pay a forfeiture of $12.6 billion. He escaped from prison twice in Mexico before being extradited to the United States and sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years on 10 distinct offenses in 2017. Guzman had at least 4 wives, one of whom he kidnapped, and at least 12 children, several of whom have been convicted of drug offenses or killed in cartel warfare. His Sinaloa cartel came to control 40 to 60% of Mexico's drug trade, despite having very little formal schooling. He claims to have killed 2,000 to 3,000 people indirectly. He also built elaborate underground networks to move drugs and evade officials, but if he attempts that in Florence Supermax, he won't have much luck. These are just a few of the hardened criminals that currently reside in one of the most terrifying prisons in the world. Just thinking about living somewhere like that is enough to drive one insane. What do you think of this place? Comment down below.